Hello, Internet family. Today I want to share with you your 4 options to resolve any outstanding tax debt you may have, even if you owe $20,000 or more. Your first option is an installment agreement. Your second option is currently non-collectible. Your third option is an offer in compromise. And your fourth option is bankruptcy. I'm going to go into these briefly, but before I do, just in case you don't know me yet, my name is Timlin Bowens, and I'm an enrolled agent licensed through the Internal Revenue Service. I'm also the owner of Bowens Tax and Bookkeeping Solutions. We are a virtual firm based in Louisville, Kentucky that specializes in resolving tax issues. So I hope you have your pen and paper ready because we're going to go briefly over these 4 options, okay? So let's start with an installment agreement. If you have tax debt and you can't pay it in full, the IRS allows you to set up what's essentially a payment plan to satisfy that obligation over time. Now, there are 3 different types of installment agreements. We have a streamlined agreement, a regular agreement, and a partial pay agreement. So, if you owe the IRS and you know you can't pay in full, setting up an installment agreement is very well going to probably be your best bet to make sure that you get that obligation satisfied. But keep in mind, we have a few more options. So number 2, with currently non-collectible. When you can't pay in full, before the IRS just goes ahead and takes all your money, they try to work with you. And they give you standards or thresholds for allowable expenses to figure out how much you can pay them each month. So these are based on your family size, your age, and how much you make. So after all of the allowable expenses are looked at and it's deemed that you really can't afford to make payments right now, an option that you have is putting your account into currently non-collectible. Now I want to point out, while this is going on, and with an installment agreement, interest is still accruing on that balance and you have to pay that interest. However, what currently non-collectible accounts protect you from is the government, aka the IRS, using any enforcement tactics to get their money, such as a lien or a levy. So while you're currently non-collectible, you're protected from the liens and levies. Number 3, we have the offer in compromise. Now, you may be a little bit familiar with this. You may have seen on TV or heard on the radio the big offer mills say, we can settle your tax debt for pennies on the dollar. Now, this is a very, very possible outcome that may happen with an offer in compromise. But I want to point out to you, not everyone is going to be eligible for an offer in compromise. That's why it's good when you're looking for a person to help you with your tax relief that you use somebody that's going to actually walk you through the process and see if you're a good candidate for an offer instead of just filling out the application and sending it. Okay? So you might want to write that down. Look for somebody that's going to walk you through the process and let you know if you're a good candidate for an offer in compromise and not just take your money and send the application. Okay? So with the offer in compromise, they also take into account your income, what assets you have, and other financial information to see if it's likely that you'd even be able to pay. In order to be a good candidate, I would recommend you need to owe over $20,000, hardly have any assets. When I say assets, I don't just mean like houses, cars. You really can't have a lot put up in retirement or any other type of property. Because if you do, the IRS is not going to accept your offer and they're going to look at you and say, why don't you just sell your house or boat and give us our money? Make sense? So our fourth and final option that you have is bankruptcy. Now, bankruptcy isn't always going to be the best option for your taxes. Now, your other financial obligations, that may be the best bet to go ahead and just wipe that slate clean. But in order for your taxes to be discharged, there are a few things that you want to make note of. We have the 3-year rule, 2-year rule, and 240-day rule. So what the 3-year rule says is if your tax return is not, let me go back, not tax return. If your tax obligation is less than 3 years old, it can't be discharged in a bankruptcy. Okay? So it has to be at least 3 years old. If you meet that qualification, let's go to the 2-year rule. If you filed your return late, the tax return in question has to be on file for at least 2 years. Okay? So the tax year in question has to have been at least 3 years ago. You had to have filed the tax return for that year at least 2 years ago. So, as we've talked about before, interest accrues on your obligation, right? So, any additional tax that has been assessed on the obligation you didn't pay has to be at least 240 days old. Tax assessed has to be 3 years old. Return has to be on file for 2 years, and then any additional tax assessed has to be in for at least 240 days before the tax can be discharged. So if you find yourself in a situation this year, life happens, and you may have to file bankruptcy. Just keep in mind that any tax debt that you have will not be discharged if it does not meet those requirements or rules. So if you have an outstanding tax debt, $20,000 or more, even $80,000, $100,000, you have these 4 options: the installment agreement, the offer in compromise, currently non-collectible, or bankruptcy. Now, if you know that sounds good, but you really don't know where to get started, you can always reach out to me and my team at Bowen's Tax and Bookkeeping Solutions. You can schedule a call with us using the link down in the caption, or you can just visit our website at www.bowenstaxsolutions. Make sure you put the S on the solutions because we have more than one for you. So you're going to go to www.bowenstaxsolutions.com. We would love to see if you're a good fit for our firm to work with and get you the best legal solution possible. But remember, you have to take the first step and book that call with us so we can get this tax debt behind you and you can get your life back.